Hi there. Welcome to UNWOMANLY, the podcast where taboo topics are never off the table and discussions with an open mind and dirty mouth are always encouraged. My name is Jen Danczak, and I'm recording here in Los Angeles, California, with a special guest, a mysteriously anonymous major airline pilot who happens to be a very long-time friend of mine. Please welcome Steven! Yay!
Hey!
He's like, do I clap for myself? Welcome to UNWOMANLY, babe.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I know we've talked about this for so long, so I'm grateful that you wanted to do this with me.
Me too. Yeah, a long time. I'm glad we got to do it.
I know, you're a big old Joe Rogan fan, so...
Oh, yeah.
If anything, I love podcasts because of you. You kind of got me onto podcasts.
Oh, really?
In a way. Yeah, you've always showed me a bunch, so I was like, ooh, he listens to these.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that I can always thank you for that, babe.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Joe Rogan podcast. There's so many different ones to listen to. Armchair Expert. I like that one too.
Oh, that one's a good one.
Yeah.
But you and I actually grew up in the land of the Wright brothers, which is very fitting.
Yeah.
Good old Ohio.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we've known each other for what, like 18 fucking years?
I think so. It was
like
fourth
that?
grade, right? So that was...
Was it fourth grade or fifth grade?
Remember Blake just opened,
yeah,
right?
So I think it was fourth grade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How old were we in fourth grade? No, it was 2001 because it was 9/11, right?
Yeah, 9/11.
So I was 9.
So yeah.
You'd have been 9 too.
Yeah, I'm only a few months older than you.
Yeah.
Whoa. Fuck, we've known each other so
that's like 20 years.
That's 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
God
that's
damn,
crazy.
we're old as shit.
How many Joe Rogan's guests can say that? I don't think that many.
No, that is very, very true.
Yeah.
And now you're a big Tesla loving man. And
yeah.
we just got to ride in his Tesla, guys. This is so badass.
It was incredible. I've always loved. Oh, those cars are so much fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was literally a treat.
Yeah. I'm so glad we got to do that. It was perfect day for it too.
Oh yeah. It was beautiful out, and he took me like 0 to 60 or whatever the fuck it was, like within a heartbeat. The shit was terrifying. Oh my God.
It was crazy. I remember you were holding your stuff. I'm like, you gotta put it in the center console because I'm like, it's gonna go flying backwards. You're like, what?
And then it totally would have. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I couldn't even open my eyes.
Yeah.
It literally brought me back to, like you said earlier, fucking Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point.
Oh, totally.
It was so awesome.
It's insane, right?
Because there's, like you said, there's no like throttle with the gears, switching within a normal car because this one's electric. It just goes right for it. I'm like, holy fuck, what is this?
It's crazy because it's got 2 motors each on each axle, so all that power just goes to all 4 wheels like right away.
Unbelievable.
No gears, no like lag.
Oh
and it's
my
just
God.
like it's like you can explain it to people, but then to experience it's a whole different thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was definitely something that kicks off the fucking like thrill out of all of this.
Yeah.
Because you love Tesla, you love airplanes. We grew up in Ohio where it all fucking came together. Almost not the Tesla part, but the airplanes.
Yeah, that's true.
So I've always known that you've always wanted to be a pilot, like since I fucking met you.
Yeah.
Like what made you want to be a pilot? Because you've never had a plan B, at least since I've known you.
Yeah, I never have really. Yeah, but just I think it's part of the reason why, like, I don't know, just like it aids in my success, I guess, is not having a plan B. Like, this is the plan.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, then I'll figure it out when it comes to it, But I didn't really have a backup plan.
No, you didn't. And that's why I fucking admire the shit out of you.
Oh, well, thank you.
You've always just had that one goal, and you fucking made it, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Even a few people that have known me that whole time,
That is very true.
Because I've met people along the way at airlines or college, but they didn't know me from when I was a kid and wanted to do it,
Right. That is very true. I mean, the schooling and the training involved, you did go to a good school for that. Because Kent State is really well known for the pilot program.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys get really good people out of there, right? Like after they graduate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like a lot of my friends are all at the airlines now too, and it's an accredited school, so when you go through the program there, you can actually get your airline transport pilot license with less hours than you would at training at other schools.
Wow.
So like they kind of factor in the quality of the training into getting you that license with less hours. So it's 500 less hours, so it's 1,000 instead of 1,500.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, so I saved myself like almost a year of teaching because
Wow.
Like when I graduated or when I finished up all my training, I had about 300 hours. Right. So to bridge the gap from 300 to 1,000 was all teaching people how to fly.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, which was a lot of fun, actually. I really enjoyed it.
Did you have a lot of like simulation training, or is that more so now?
More so now. Just because like the planes I'm in now are so expensive to operate it's impractical for the airlines to have those planes up flying for anything other than carrying passengers, because it would cost them so many thousands of dollars per hour just for all the fuel, the maintenance and everything like that.
Wow.
So, but the planes I grew up flying when I was starting out are so small, like all your training and simulating is in the actual plane.
Right.
We did do some simulators, like when you get to your instrument training, when you're learning how to fly in the clouds, we did some of that, but it was like a little desk you sit at, like with a sliding chair, and like it was nothing like the ones I'm in now,
I was just going to ask, like, does the simulation actually get you prepared for the real thing? Do you think it really made a huge difference?
The ones I'm in now definitely do.
Okay.
The ones back then were helpful for what they were, like what the purpose was, to help you get familiar with flying on the instruments. It was definitely good for that.
Okay.
But it those were kind of different than what the actual plane was. But the ones now are so realistic. Where like, not many people know this, but all the training you do, like when you change planes at the airline you fly for, you do all your training in the simulator, and the first time you fly that actual plane is with people in the back.
No way.
The first time I ever landed the plane I'm on now was with over 100 people behind me,
No way.
Yeah.
They just throw you to the wolves.
Pretty much.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
And I'm assuming every single pilot has to start out with like the little tiny planes, like the Cessnas and stuff. Is that what you have to start out with?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. You start with the small planes, like get your private pilot's license. And once you get that, you can basically take your friends up, your family up, anybody other passengers. You just can't get paid to do it. So you can just go and fly wherever you want to. And then the next step would be like your instrument rating, which allows you to fly in the clouds. So it's just really nice, because especially as you grew up in Ohio with me, like there's so many days when it's cloudy. If you don't have that instrument rating, you can't fly into the clouds.
Right.
So you have to stay below them.
Okay.
And sometimes they're really low.
So you can actually see.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because when you go in the clouds, it's essentially like you're going into like crazy fog.
Right.
You can't see anything. It's like zero visibility.
Right.
So the instrument training like gets you so you don't like get disoriented, and then like essentially get the plane in a position where it's going to crash, because you get an illusion in there where like your inner ear fluid, like you feel like you're turning but you're not.
Okay.
And sometimes you have to know to trust the instruments. Because if you feel like you're turning, you're like, oh, I'm going this way, I got to switch it, and then you'll be in like a spiral.
Oh my God. I didn't even think of that aspect. That's so true.
Yeah, you get a lot of illusions, which is you're trained for that,
Wow.
So,
Oh my God. So then once you, graduate past the instrument and you're not really in a Cessna anymore, I mean, I'm assuming you just kind of apply to all these different airlines and be like, hey, I swear I can fly a 737, or like, how does that work? Did you just apply to everybody?
So first, like the first step out of the small planes would be like the regional airlines.
Okay.
It's like the listeners may know, like you fly to like say Chicago, and if you're flying from a small town, you may be on a small plane, but you still bought that ticket with like United or American, but you're on a small plane, and then the next plane's a big plane.
Right.
Like that small plane, the initial one, they get like the feeder routes are flown by regional pilots. So that's like your first step into the airline world. So
did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. So like all your training is still the same, still just as safe.
Yeah.
But the pilots you're flying with most likely do have less experience, but they're still very safe.
Got it.
And the pay is normally less. Ideally, you don't want to spend your whole career there if you can avoid it. Just because the ceiling of your pay is lower at those places. So it's kind of like the first step. Then you have experience built there flying those larger planes, which makes you more competitive for the big airlines.
Nice. Okay. So, and how long did it take for you to graduate from like the smaller planes? Did you ever do the regional and then move up, or
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've flown for a total of 3 different airlines.
Yes.
And the first regional airline I went to was mainly for like the quick upgrade time. So I didn't apply to all of them because I wanted to go to a place that gave me the opportunity to upgrade to captain sooner. Because that captain time is really valuable on your resume.
Oh, for sure.
I would say it's similar to like an MBA in the regular workforce,
That is so
like,
amazing.
Yeah, it's
I love that.
So having that is like a gold star in your resume that really helps out in getting hired by other places. So
you worked for junior varsity, and now you're in the NBA.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my God, I love that.
That's a great
Holy
analogy.
Shit. Yeah. I mean, you came up with it pretty much.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay. So like, how does the process work of like where you become based out of? I mean, you could apply to all these airlines, but you could be based out of, Atlanta or something, but living in Washington or something,
Yeah.
How does that work? Is there like a raffle involved, or like
That'd
seniority?
be wild.
50-50 raffle, like anybody want Washington DC?
Yeah. Looking for 9456. Anybody?
Nobody wants Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Literally the bottom of the barrel. You're like, oh no, everybody left to get to that base or whatever. Yeah. That's funny.
Oh my God.
I think that'd be exciting if they did it that way.
That would be really fucking funny. Do
Yeah.
they just do it off of like seniority then? Like how does, oh, okay.
So basically, like, there's some of it which is in your control. So, like, say if you live in Phoenix, right? Like, that's a base for American Airlines. So you probably don't want to apply for United or Delta if you want to work out of Phoenix because they don't have any bases there.
Oh.
So if you apply to those other airlines, you're pretty much going to be commuting your whole career, essentially. So, like, if you're okay with that, if those other airlines have a benefit to you that are good enough to, to make it worth it, you could do that. But ideally, most pilots want to be in the place. It's okay.
First one of the episode.
Yeah, let's do it. Keep it tally.
For real, though.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So, so you basically, most pilots want to be the point where they can drive to work is ideal.
Right.
That, like, makes it so much better because otherwise you have to fly in, like, on a passenger plane just to get to start your job.
Right, which you did for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
So you had to, like, really plan ahead, like, okay, so I work these 5 days, but I really am going to be gone for, like, 7 or whatever.
Exactly.
Damn.
The worst one was when I was living here in LA and I was based out of New York when I was new to my current airline. And
that's right.
you leave here at 8 a.m., right? Then you land in New York at like 5 p.m. because of the time change.
Uh-huh.
So, like, I would literally have to go out the day before because you waste a whole day just on that time.
Right. So then did you have to put in a bid or something to be finally based out of LA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like when I got hired, the New York was the junior spots. So all the new pilots got New York City. Like, everybody in my class did. Like, nobody had. That's kind of like the way it works at my airline. New York's junior. Oh. So everybody filters through there.
But New York is so badass. That's even.
I know.
That's amazing in itself that you're just in New York. Like,
yeah, I know,
so
right?
cool.
It's like one of the biggest cities in the United States.
Right.
Nobody wants. It's wild.
That's insane.
Yeah, I think the reason is because we have to cover like 3 different airports there. So JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. So we're responsible for all those airports on call, which could be.
Oh, that is a little bit hectic.
Like, yeah, let's say like if you commute in, like, okay, I gotta fly into JFK, take a taxi to LaGuardia, or somehow get to Newark.
Right.
Like, I think that aids in the why it's junior.
That
and also,
totally makes sense.
Like, from our perspective, like when New York gets hit with weather, like snow or storms, like they shut down all the routes for flying.
Right.
And it gets really hard to get in there.
Right.
Versus somewhere like another city, like let's say like Oklahoma or like Phoenix. Mm-hmm. It's always pretty much good weather.
Okay.
It's like easy to get to.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, have you ever like flown any double deckers, or do you have a specific plane that you really like flying?
I fly the Airbus right now, and I really enjoy that.
Okay.
So it's not a double decker, but it's really nice and modern. There's a lot of space in the cockpit, and it's great. I really enjoy that one.
Okay.
Not many airlines fly the double deckers anymore. I don't think any U.S. airline does actually. So I might have missed that boat a little bit.
Okay.
Like the 747 is the one everybody thinks about, but they all retired that one, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you've told me about the Concorde plane before.
Yeah.
That's the one that breaks the barrier of the speed of sound, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that might be coming back. I know United was bidding to get a supersonic plane, I think 2030. Oh. So it might be coming back.
Holy shit.
It's just it's one of those things where
for passengers to
yeah.
No way.
Yeah. That'd be awesome, right?
That would be insane.
Yeah. I think the thing is it's a cost thing. So it's kind of hard to get a plane to go through the speed of sound because it's the aerodynamics of it. So you need a lot of power to do that, which uses a lot of fuel. And the design of the plane has to be differently. So it just costs a lot to do that. So it's do they think they'll have enough people that want to pay more to go faster?
Right.
Would you pay double the price to get there half the time?
Right.
It's do they have enough people that want to do that?
Right.
So.
Well, Mr. Tesla.
Oh yeah.
Do you think do you think that they'll do a whole electric plane?
I think it is on their radar eventually.
Okay.
They're just so early into the car market right now. They pretty much have their hands full with cars, solar panels, batteries, AI, self-driving. So I think they're trying to get their handle on that first and then expand to probably planes eventually.
Unbelievable.
So I think the big thing is the battery constraints because that's what's holding them back right now with the cars is just getting enough batteries.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they don't want to use too many batteries for planes when they can still build a lot more cars in the meantime.
Right.
So
do you think that you'll be the first in line if you're hell yeah, I will be the test pilot. I will do this.
Exactly.
Knowing how much you love Elon, you'll be sir, I will be your personal pilot.
Yeah, pretty much. I know, right? Oh my gosh, totally. Because I want to get my own plane one day, but I don't want to just go around polluting the skies. I got my time off, even though it's fun, but it's in my mind, it's that's a lot of extra emissions. So if I can have an electric plane, that'd be incredible. I would totally get one of those.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What about helicopters versus planes? How come you chose planes versus helicopters to fly?
I don't know, the planes, you can travel farther distances, which was always appealing to me. Like really can travel far. Like you don't take helicopters really on long distances. And the planes are nice because if our engines fail, we can still glide down, with our wings, which is really nice. And the helicopters have a way of doing it, but basically if their engine fails, their engine's directly attached to that rotor, so it's going to stop spinning.
Ooh, okay.
And they have a way of like kind of floating down, but they can't glide very far.
Right, right. So how much gas do you think a plane actually holds? And like how many miles to the gallon do you get? Like how long does it take to fill it up too?
Oh yeah, so it's funny. Last flight I was on, me and the captain were actually just talking about this. We did the math on the flight we were on, how many people we had, how much fuel we were carrying, and how many miles per gallon each person was doing. And I think it came out to be like 130 miles per gallon. So,
wow.
Like it's way more efficient for you to drive or for you to fly than it is to drive a car across the country.
Makes sense.
So like if you say your car gets 30 miles a gallon, it was like 4 times that. And our plane actually wasn't even full.
Oh my God.
So
I like how you guys are just like chilling in the cockpit. You're like, yeah, let's do some fucking math. Like, what?
Yeah, I brought it up. Are you surprised?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because it shows like how many pounds we had loaded on the plane and then how many pounds we're going to land with. You get the difference and then you divide it by how many people you have and figure it out like each person. So like obviously the more amount of people we have, the more efficient it is. But actually it's less efficient because we're heavier.
Oh,
because we burn more fuel the more weight we carry. But
what do you think you like transporting better, like cargo or people? Did you even transport cargo ever, or has it always been people?
I've never done cargo.
Okay.
So I guess it depends on the people, though. It depends on the person.
If there's a murderer, fuck you. Michael Vick, suck it.
Yeah. If somebody's gonna go crazy for not wearing a mask and go ballistic, maybe the cargo would be better.
So true.
Yeah,
oh my
but
God.
in general, I prefer carrying people though. Right. I just like the satisfaction of bringing people to their families, or people are like, it's just cool, like people you can connect the world, and you're like a part of that,
It's so true. I mean, they always say sometimes airports see some of the most emotional gatherings, like people are coming home from war, people are sending off, loved ones. Even more so than hospitals sometimes. I totally believe that.
Yeah.
And you get to be a part of the experience.
Yeah, I really think that's special. I never take it for granted,
Yeah.
And it's incredible that they trust, all of us to do that, and we're trained very well, and it all works out really, really nicely.
That's so sweet. Yeah. So I know there is a lot of lingo involved with I mean, captain, co-pilot, pilot, like who the fuck is who? Like can you list that out for me? Isn't there like a first lieutenant or first something too?
Yeah, there is actually.
What the fuck is all this?
I know. It's so confusing. I mean, it can be confusing looking outside because we always use the same terms, but then other people use terms interchangeably, which makes it like really confusing.
Right.
So in general,
as I'm picking my nose.
Oh, it's fine.
Gotta love allergies, baby.
Yeah. They can be essentially, the captain would be either called the captain or the pilot. Some people call them pilot, some people call them captain. Like I say captain.
Got it.
So I guess I'll go first. The terms we use, which is captain and first officer, is what we say. So my position right now is a first officer, which is, you would call me a co-pilot.
And I said first lieutenant.
It's okay.
God.
It's all good. Yeah, no worries. It's close.
Yeah.
Close enough.
I got one word.
Yeah, an L, it's an L and an O. It's only a few off. Yeah, so that's the terms we use. And then a lot of people say pilot or co-pilot.
And have you noticed that there's like a big difference between like male pilots and female pilots? Do you come across a lot of female pilots too? Do you think there's like a big numerical comparison in a way?
Yeah, there's definitely like way more male pilots than there are female pilots. But it's starting to change, which is good.
Is it?
Yeah, there's a lot of female pilots in training right now. And I've flown with a lot of flight attendants who have started to pursue flying.
Oh, great.
And have like actually taken leaves of absence or different things to do all their flight training. A couple of them are flight instructors now.
Wow.
So it's really cool to see.
Yeah. I wonder why there aren't as many females doing this.
Yeah, I think like back in the day, there's a lot of cliches or like stereotypes of like male from the military, So like everybody thinks like, oh, I can't do that. Like I was in the military, or men do that. Like there's a lot of stereotypes, but I think that's changing a lot, which is good.
And the flight stewardess with the pretty outfit and the cinched waist, like, that's what everyone thinks of. It's a woman doing that job,
Yeah.
So that does make a lot of sense, but I'm really happy to hear that you're seeing a difference.
Oh, for sure.
Like coming up.
Yeah, and like my company and other companies are doing a lot of programs where people within the company can go to flight training, and the company will like support them in doing that, allowing them to take leaves and give them resources about where to train at and stuff to kind of promote them within the company,
Right.
Where they can go and fly, like take a leave of absence from being a flight attendant, go fly for a regional airline, and then come back to where they work now in being a pilot now. So it's like they're encouraging people to do that, which is really nice.
Oh my God.
And I think a lot of it's just like the internet too probably helps. Because like you think in the 90s, like where would you go to look if you want to learn how to learn about that?
Right.
Like a magazine maybe, I don't know. And then
Yeah, that's a good
you just
point.
can't the internet, social media, Instagram and stuff is like really helping with that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we all say there's some bad things about social media, but I think that's one of the good things is like somebody can go have a viral female pilot who has like 1 million followers, and then imagine how many people she's inspiring,
Oh, definitely.
For sure.
What's your schedule like when you are a pilot? I mean, what time do you have to get to the airport before your flight?
So I can kind of lay it out like how the process works.
Yes.
So we kind of always think like a month ahead.
Okay.
Essentially. So right now, was it today? September 21st?
22nd, yeah.
So the next thing on my radar would be October 4th to the 11th. Because that's when the bidding window opens up for my November schedule.
Ooh, so you have to go and bid on what flights you get every single
month,
No
a month
way.
before. Yeah.
That's badass. Okay.
So all of our flights are grouped together into a trip.
Right.
So we bid on the trips essentially.
Got it.
Or we can pick what days we want to be on reserve or on call.
Oh.
So the 4th, the 11th, that's open where we can put the request in. And then I always text my friends or friends text me to remind you not to forget. Because if you forget to put anything in, you can actually save something in there. I don't really do that because I always change what I want to do. But you can save something there as a backup. But if you forget, then you just have nothing in there as a request. And then they can just give you whatever is left over essentially.
So ahead of time what you're going to get when you know. Or once you bid, I'm assuming almost instantly? Or?
I wish. That'd be
Okay.
not quite. That'd be. I hope one day we can get to that because it's all computers, right? You think they could, but so it normally closes on the 11th, and we don't get our schedule until the 17th or the 16th.
Oh, okay.
5 or 6 days of waiting, Wow. And then it comes out, and then we have another window that opens on the 20th where you can swap your trips and drop them and do different things with other people.
Oh, that's cool.
So and then that stays open all the way through the next month.
Wow.
So
okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you can go on every day, and if there's a new trip you like, you can put in a request to swap your trip for that trip.
Right.
Assuming that they are on the same days. If they're not, then there's still a way you can do it
That's
as well.
so
But
fucking
it's
badass.
It's our whole own little world.
Yeah. Oh my God. Say you have a flight at 10 a.m. out of LAX. I don't know why I just said it like that. LAX.
It's all good.
So what time, I know you live very close to the airport, but what time do you get to the airport? And do you play any little video games while you wait? Or how does that work?
I could. No.
How far ahead do you have to get there?
So our report time is an hour before the flight departs.
That's it?
That's it. Yeah.
Shit.
Isn't that
Okay.
crazy?
Yeah.
It's not much at all.
I'm assuming you wouldn't have a big ass bag that you got to check and stuff.
Oh, no. Yeah. So we just go through they call it known crew member. So we essentially just go through the exit line of the airport. Oh. So it's really nice. And we they check our credentials and everything like that.
Right.
But it's really convenient. But sometimes you get randomly checked and have to go through regular security.
Okay.
So that's a fail-safe or a protection in the program, so in case you're bringing anything through, you shouldn't be. So, but yeah, normally I still get there a little earlier than that, if I can, an hour and 10 or hour and 15, just to, I'm actually there earlier than that, but just to give myself more time.
Right.
Just so you're not feeling rushed. But a lot of times we're getting the plane ready while everybody's boarding.
I've noticed that a lot. Even if it's doing the de-icing thing or whatever, that happens when people are still boarding. And I see them doing a lot of things up front.
Yeah.
And fueling and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that's kind of cool. I'm glad that they're not wasting our fucking time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Because that's
so
a big,
cool.
we're always on kind of a timeline of our goal is to get certain things done in a certain amount of minutes before we push back.
Okay.
And we get certain messages from our company. One comes automatically 8 minutes before pushback with a message telling us, that there's anything special to be considered of, and then our weight and our fuel and stuff like that. So,
okay.
And our goal is to push right on time, or actually even earlier, but no later than on the departure time.
Yeah.
It's all these metrics get shared by all the airlines, and they all kind of compare. You'll say, oh, Southwest or United are ranked 1 and 2, or Delta, United, American, they always track that stuff. So
wow.
But our job is pilots is we can't let that influence us too much.
Yeah.
We have to let ourselves have safety first,
Oh, absolutely.
So it's if we can do the job safely and still get out on time, then that's a bonus.
Right.
But the on time for us is just as a bonus, essentially. We're primarily focused as everything being done safely.
Okay.
So that's stressed to us a lot by our company, is to make sure we're taking our time and doing things properly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be a couple minutes late versus something drastic goes wrong because there was one thing you guys didn't check or something.
Yeah.
Just because,
Exactly.
I can only imagine the checklist that you've got when you right the second you step into that cockpit before a flight.
It's wild. So we have like a big flow we do of like checking all the switches, and we have that memorized essentially. It sounds crazy, but it's really not that bad because you pretty much get familiar with every switch.
Right.
You just make sure everything's like in the normal position, or you change this from on to auto or off to on, things like that.
And those little things can make huge differences, I can assume.
Yeah, so the really important ones of those are backed up on the checklist. So like the checklist is essentially like verifying that we did our flow properly.
Right.
So like even when we're going pushback, I have a flow I do. We verify the checklist. Once the engine starts, I have another flow I do, and we're verifying that with a different checklist.
Okay.
So, and then you have not only the checklist, but you have the other pilot who reads the checklist with you.
I was just going to ask what the other one does. Okay.
Yeah. So there's certain things that I'll read that I'll verify myself, but normally the other pilot's still looking. Certain things are verified by both of us, like really important things.
Right.
So it's pretty cool how it's like there's so many different things that are lines of safety, you know.
Right.
So
oh my God.
if anybody's listening that's afraid of flying, I would just, encourage them to know that there's so many different safety checks done.
Oh my God.
And like so much training because our company operates like 4,000 flights a day, so it's like,
oh my God,
if you have one problem that is an inefficiency in the system, it could be like a big problem if you're doing that many flights a day,
Oh yeah, that's a great point.
So,
how much are you actually in control during the flight? Like from the second, I'm assuming takeoff is all you.
Oh yeah, we always take off ourselves. Yeah.
Oh my God.
At least I haven't. Yeah, none of the planes I've flown have been able to take off by themselves. Maybe that's coming one day, but
Elon, are you listening?
I know. I don't want to be out of a job, so we gotta be
That is
good
true,
balance.
That is true. That is true, definitely. Oh my God.
It's like, Elon, I love you, but just be careful with this stuff.
Yeah. And is it kind of like, I don't know if it is a simulator or maybe just a video game I've played where like your hands are like on this like weird looking, almost like an Infinity 8. When you pull down, it actually goes up type thing. Is that what it looks like when you're, really?
Yeah, so the one I'm on now, the Airbus 320 is different. But the 737 used to fly was like an upside, like a U, like a big U.
Oh.
It didn't have that. Some of them have like the 8 thing, like older planes, but they call it a yoke. And essentially, when you pull back, the plane climbs up. When you push down, it goes forward or goes lower.
Oh, you pull it.
Yeah, pull it like towards your chest, your stomach, and it goes up in the air.
What if you've got big tits?
Oh, you gotta move back. I guess move the seat back.
Yes. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, you want to check that before you go take off.
Yeah, I mean, I would have very big issues. Yeah, I would have to make sure that's definitely something I check. I knew that like the instruments came in handy like when you were up in the air, but like the fact that taking off is all you. I mean, is that a very nervous part of the whole thing for you, or do you get excited like at the end, or are you nervous at all throughout the whole fucking thing at all?
It's we've done it so many times. There's like a level of nerves, I guess, that just come naturally just because you know the amount of risk that's involved.
Right.
But I guess you kind of just get acclimated to that. I don't feel nervous, but you just know that there's what you're doing is pretty serious.
Yeah.
So like there's a level of just like awareness, I would say.
Yeah.
Versus nerves. You're just aware of how dangerous what you're doing is.
Right. And that's, we're all about taboo topics here. And like people don't really talk about the importance of your job and like actually doing it properly. And like you do have lives in your hands,
Yeah.
And like the fact that you can actually say how serious it is, it's like, yeah, he gets it,
Yeah.
I mean, you have like so many fucking pedals and panels in front of you. I can only imagine what it's like in your brain when you're doing all of this.
Yeah.
Do you know how many screens and like joysticks and stuff you've got?
Yeah, so we got six screens.
Holy shit.
So I have like a primary flight display in front of me, which is like our airspeed, our altitude, our heading, our attitude, which is like up and down, left to right. And then above that, we have like an indication for all of our different modes. So like a lateral mode, a vertical mode, where it shows us our autopilot indications essentially.
Okay.
So like we'll hand fly with the takeoff, and then once we get the autopilot on, we're basically flying it with a panel in the center.
Right.
We call it like a flight control unit, where basically we'll turn the plane with that. We'll input a new altitude. We'll have it climb or descend, all from that panel.
Okay.
So even if the autopilot is on, it's really only doing it what we instruct it to do. If you want the plane to turn to the left, you have to pull a knob and turn it to the left.
You pull a knob to turn it?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I'm over here thinking it's like magic school bus shit. Like you're just, normal turning. You have to turn a knob?
Not like if you're hand flying, you don't have to. You can just turn with the stick.
Okay.
And then that's really when you're on like a heading. So like if ATC gives you a turn. But then when we have our flight plan input it to the FMS, it'll follow that flight plan on its own. So it'll turn by itself if it's on a flight plan.
What's FMS?
Oh, it's like a flight management system.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're great.
I just say it all the time, like
Yeah.
at work. I totally forget. Yeah.
It is all good. So yeah, I'm assuming from the second you get in the plane to the second it's over with, you're in contact with air traffic control.
Yeah, in one
Okay.
way or another, like different parts of them. So like when we
Okay.
start at the gate, some airports have like a ramp control, and they'll control just the gate area. Like busy airports like Atlanta or like New York, places like that, they'll have a ramp control that controls all the planes in that area because there's so many.
Yeah.
If you go to like a small airport like say Omaha or Akron Canton,
Omaha?
yeah, yeah, they won't have a ramp control because they have like 6 gates, you know?
Yeah.
So there's just no real need for it. And like the ground control for ATC will take over that role. So,
Oh my God.
So it'd be like ramp control, then you go to ground, and then when you're coming up on the runway, you go over the tower to get the clearance to take off.
Okay.
And then there's like a departure frequency to get you up to the high altitudes. And there's a center controller, which is when you're in the high altitudes that you can talk to them the whole way.
Wow.
So say we take off from Ohio, go to LA, it'd be like Ohio, tower, departure, and then center. And then you're talking to Chicago center, then it's Oklahoma center, Denver center, Salt Lake City, and then LA.
Oh my
So it's like
God.
there's these big airspaces that these people control.
And are they always located at the airports? I mean, I only see like the one big ass tower by LAX. Like you can't miss it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming air traffic control in that tower.
It is for that airport,
Oh.
and sometimes like the centers are also like in the basement of that, like for the high altitude stuff. Sometimes they're at their own building.
Okay.
Like Ohio, like Cleveland Center is actually out in like Oberlin, Ohio.
Oh, no way.
Which is like isn't it over to like Sandusky area, I think. On the way
It's
there.
definitely like west of, where
Yeah.
we grew up.
So it's like
Yeah.
nowhere near the airport, which is interesting.
Right. Yeah. It's a little far out for sure.
Isn't that wild? Because they don't need to see the planes because the planes they're handling are like 35,000 feet in the air, and they wouldn't see them anyways. But then the tower typically wants to be like where they can still see the plane.
Right.
So
That makes sense.
yeah.
Jesus.
And there's like these new towers coming up now where it's just all cameras. Where like there's a tower of cameras, but there's nobody actually in the tower, and there's somebody on the ground that's just monitoring all the cameras.
Okay, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. I mean,
Oh no! Are you okay with that? You think
Oh.
that's gonna be sufficient for?
yeah, I would think because I've flown to so many airports even when there's not even a control tower.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're just like, yeah, that's nothing. That's a piece of
Yeah.
cake. At least someone's there.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Because like sometimes we'll go into these airports even with the airlines where the control tower will close down at midnight and our flight lands at 12:30.
Well, that's bullshit.
I know.
Fucking stay up. That pisses me off. Oh no way.
Yeah. So
Does that tick you off? Does that change anything in mid-flight at all for you?
Normally we know about it ahead of time.
Okay.
Because we kind of like our pages we can check, our company pages and see, and then we see what time the flight's getting. We kind of know to expect that.
Okay.
It's a little more stressful on our end just because we have to be more mindful of the other planes that could be there.
Yeah.
But normally it's like pretty late when that happens. There's not many other planes around.
Right.
So
do you prefer daytime versus nighttime flying? Just because of visibility or?
that's a good question.
Ooh,
I might prefer
I'll take it.
I might prefer the night sometimes. Well,
Yeah?
I love flying like at sunset if I'm going to be picky. Like,
It doesn't blind you and freak you out. You just love the
or I like
view.
when the sun's already down, but you still have the
I
orange.
see what you
Very
mean.
particular.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Aww.
Yeah. 'Cause that's really nice. Like that's because especially if you're flying to the west,
Yeah.
you can have like a sunset that lasts for like a couple hours.
Yeah.
Because you're going towards the sun
with
like
it,
500 miles an hour
yes.
towards it,
So insane.
Same thing if you're going east and the sun's setting, to the west, it'll set super quick because you're going away from it.
So you just said it 500 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Why don't I realize how fast you guys actually fucking go?
I think it's because of how high we are, So you
Yeah,
can't really
you don't
tell.
really think- yeah,
If we
you
were
don't
like
really
100 feet above the ground, you'd be like freaking out. You'd be like zooming by everything,
Right.
Yeah.
Holy titties.
Yeah.
So like in the cockpit, I have questions here. How do the conversations go? Like you and the other co-pilot, like do you guys talk about normal shit? Like, or do you always keep to work? How does that happen?
Yeah, it totally depends on the person, really. It depends on like how much. It's kind of like you just imagine like you're just somewhere, I don't know, in line somewhere, you're at a bar somewhere, you're talking to the person next to you. Like some people you'll get along with, other people you won't have a ton to talk about.
Right.
But in this situation, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, you're stuck.
You're with
Yeah.
this person for this trip,
Right.
Certain people you'll have the one time I flew with a guy that drove a Tesla. So you just imagine like,
Oh man.
the conversation is pretty endless there.
Oh yeah.
You know?
You were fucking popping wood on that one. Yeah, definitely.
That's hilarious. And then the guy I just flew with recently drives a Chevy Bolt, which is another electric vehicle. So we were talking about that and the differences between the Tesla.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like a big difference in life phases, you know? Like I could have been 25 or whatever at the time and find somebody who's like 63.
Right.
But like it's like we have some things to talk about, but there's just not a lot of overlap in our current phase of life, you know? But we always make it work, and sometimes we talk for a long time. Other times we just talk here and there.
Yeah.
But
oh my God. So
yeah.
what about like napping in the cockpit? Do you guys get to take like naps and shit?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, pretty much if it's especially on a red-eye flight, if we need to take like a micro nap, you just need to like communicate with the other person.
Yeah.
I've never done it. I just get like nervous that I get like the other person fall asleep too. That makes me too nervous.
I get that.
But I've seen people I've flown with have done it, you know, for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, a little
especially
power
if they're the one flying. I'd rather have them get a nap than be really tired when they're landing.
That is a great point.
You know?
Yeah.
And our system is set up where there's alarms and stuff that will go off if something bad is happening.
Okay.
Like every indication of emergency would be like ding, 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 or like, you know.
That's good.
Not that we're both, but if it would wake them up, and obviously I would wake them up too if that happened. But that's pretty rare. I think occasionally you see that happen where people want to take like a little nap. But most people, that doesn't happen. So.
Right. What about taking a nice big old poop when you gotta
go? Yeah. I know, right?
Do you use like the normal lavatories that everyone else uses, or do you have like a secret one in the cockpit?
I wish we did. No, we use the front one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have to like coordinate with the flight attendants and make sure they're watching your back too?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, they'll come up and bring a card up. And like we'll have to make sure nobody's in it, and then they put like a card up. I'm sure maybe you've seen it like when you're.
I feel like I have.
They put it like sideways and like block people from coming up.
Got it.
So yeah, there's certain planes have like a little gate that it comes up they can close, like a secondary barrier, and there's been a lot of push to get that on all planes, which I think they should.
That would be great. Yeah, absolutely, dude.
It's like a big metal gate that the flight attendant could close.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And then we open our door, and then are in like in between the two, and then we open up the second one.
And only some of them have that so far, you said?
Yeah, only a few of the planes have that.
Wow.
But
yeah, they definitely should do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's, working, go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I think it just comes down to a cost thing and a weight thing, you know.
Right.
A lot of the airlines aren't going to do it unless they're forced to.
That's a good point.
Via like a FAA or something. So.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. FAA, you listening?
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
What do you think is your longest flight that you have, one nonstop flight that you've flown?
That I've flown? So I haven't done any international flights yet. I mean, I've done international, like Mexico, Canada, Caribbean, South and Central America, but not like Asia or Europe.
Is that different training involved?
A little bit.
Oh.
So there's certain routes I flew from like New York down to the Caribbean where we go pretty far off the water, off the coast, where we do a lot of international procedures still.
Oh.
So that was cool. So I got to experience some of that.
Okay.
But there's also like certain training you have to do. If you do a full international flight, you have to do a certain type of training with that, like with the pilot, a special pilot who trains on that, as well, before you go and do those routes.
Wow.
So if I were to get awarded that or switch to a plane that does that, I would go through that training as well.
Wow.
So it's not too crazy. It's really just like one flight there, one flight back, and then you're good. Slide it off. It's just like one to get you familiar with it, essentially. But it's really not that different than we do. It's just slightly different communication procedures because you're not on anybody's radar.
Okay.
There's no ATC radar out there.
Right.
So there's a lot of more communications that go as far as like how you communicate with air traffic control is different.
Okay.
But my longest one was like 6 hours and 50 minutes.
Okay.
Or no, I think there was one that was over 7 hours and 20 minutes or something like that.
Probably like edge to edge type thing.
Pretty much. It was Fort Lauderdale to LAX.
Oh, there you go.
And the reason why it was so long is because that Hurricane Maria was just about to come into Fort Lauderdale. So a lot of the air traffic controllers were actually at home taking care of their families.
Oh, wow.
So there wasn't many air traffic controllers working. So they had to space out the planes really far.
Oh,
because there's only so many people working.
So did you have to do a bunch of circles and shit?
No, they just like, when we took off, they'd be like one plane take off, and they'd be like 10 minutes till the next plane could take off.
Oh, wow.
So there's like a huge line of people to take off,
Yeah.
But our flight time essentially starts when we release the parking brake at the gate. So that started all that waiting was also flight
part
time.
of it. Got it.
Yeah, even though you would think of it as ground time, but
you kind of touched onto it just 3 seconds ago. Like you said, there's no ATC out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, what were to happen if like that communication gets cut off? Like even though you kind of don't really have it in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Like what you said, there's obviously a bunch of beeping and paneling stuff going on. What happens? Like if something does go wrong and you're over the damn ocean?
Yeah. So there's the first thing, like the planes that go over the ocean are certified. Their engines are certified for extended operations. They call it like ETOPS is the abbreviation. So those engines are even safer than normal engines, where they have a higher inspection interval. So they get inspected by maintenance more often because they're taking you really remote places over the water.
Right.
Because there's certain, like actually the most isolating route you can do is like California or the West Coast to Hawaii. Like when you're in the middle of those two, that's when you're the farthest from any airport of any flight really in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's no airports between here and there.
Wow.
Versus like when you go to, say, like JFK or Boston to Europe, you're coming up, you got like Nova Scotia, you do Iceland, Ireland. You're kind of close to some airports.
Some sort of land.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then even when you're going like to Australia, you still have like Hawaii there. You have some other little islands and things. But
yeah.
we still have communication with ATC.
Yeah.
We're just not on their radar.
That's so weird.
So yeah, we have to we have a certain procedure we do if we have to deviate off of our flight path that we can do without telling them. We have to tell them shortly, but we can start to do it initially if we have an issue.
Right.
We just have to basically get off of our track, they call it, deviate a few miles off, and then we can descend. Because a lot of times they'll have like a track, these tracks on the ocean where they stack up planes on different altitudes.
You want to make sure you don't hit another one.
Yeah, so if you're doing emergency descent, you have to make sure you deviate from that and then come down. Because it's like, imagine like a highway, like Interstate 10.
That's
so
fucking badass.
Yeah.
They
wild.
stack planes in the air. That's fucking cool.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh? So I mean, normally we're not like literally on top of each other because we'll be back here and there, but like
yeah,
a lot of times, when we're flying, we're up beyond this route, and there'll be somebody else coming just 1,000 feet above us the exact same way.
Oh my god!
And since the GPS is so accurate, it's like literally like the fuselage of our plane is lined up with the fuselage of their plane when they pass, because we're all on the same GPS route, which is so accurate. You know?
Oh my god! And it's like in a split fucking second. Like you don't even see them probably.
Really, yeah. You can see them coming if you can see like their contrails, like the ones you see.
Okay.
Those that are left in the sky.
And the little lights.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's crazy because you're going 5 miles an hour one way, they're going the other way at the same speed.
Right.
So you're passing like over 1,000 miles an hour. Like just the difference is crazy.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
I know. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Is there any like language barrier with any ATC people at all? Have you ever encountered that, or have you ever been yelled at?
Oh.
Has anyone been like a sassy bitch from up there and like been like?
It's so funny because you definitely encounter that more like the Northeast, like Boston and New York Center. Like they're very much more short tempered than they are like with LA
Wow.
or Denver and like West Coast. Like you can tell they're like just a little more amped up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, like they don't have much patience for. I mean, like if they have to repeat something like once, they'll get antsy, you know.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like the cliche New Yorker type thing.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
Are there any like runways that you think are the most challenging or the easiest ones that you like being like flying into?
I like the long ones. The longer ones are easier.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah?
not that we need.
That makes sense.
We need the runway. Like the shorter the runway is, the more stress that goes into it. You know.
Yeah.
Because like you gotta get down and get it stopped really quickly. But we always pretty much touch down the same area of the runway.
Okay.
It's like the touchdown zone.
Right.
So it's like the first 3,000 feet or the first third of the runway.
Okay.
Whichever shorter essentially. So like if you're going to the Burbank, the Burbank airport, I think the runway there is like 5,800 feet long. So the first third, is like the 1,800 feet. You have to touch down. But then LAX is like 12,000 feet. It's like you have that full 3,000 feet.
Holy tits, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference. So you have to,
in the same size plane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
how
there's
do you adjust?
So we have actually auto brakes that we use. So normally we land with like low setting. We can put that up to medium, which will get a more aggressive braking. And then we also have to make sure that we, get the plane down and get it stopped sooner.
Wow.
There's less tolerance for error essentially.
Right.
Yeah. Because sometimes if you're trying to make a nice smooth landing, you might float a couple more 100 feet, to get it smoother.
Yeah.
But if you're getting those short runways, you just pretty much gotta get it down and stopped.
Right.
So
because then you're screwed if you reach the end.
Yeah. So there's like a point where if we know we're missing that point, we have to just go around and try again. If you're not going to touch down that first 1,800 feet.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Have you ever had to do that part before?
Not for that reason, but mainly for like ATC.
Okay.
Yeah, where their plane in front of us was still on the runway taking off.
Oh.
And they didn't space it properly, and we had to go around for that.
Okay.
Or I've had it a couple of times where we were coming down and we didn't break out of the clouds at the point we're supposed to.
Oh.
And we didn't see the runway. And there's a certain point on our approaches where if we don't see the runway, then we have to go around.
Got it.
So,
and
yeah.
how many different switches are you hitting at that moment when you make that decision? Like, oh, not going down anymore, going back up.
Yeah, it depends on the plane actually.
Okay.
So the 737 I used to fly, it was like more involved with that and more chances of error. Because it was a more complex procedure. But basically, the big one is you just push the power forward and you pull back. Like those are the two things you have to do.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
It's like, how does that even work? They look like they're going opposite.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's just like it's so second nature once you've done it a bunch.
Yeah.
But basically, you need more power to get away from the ground. You need to pull up. If you mess up either of those ones, it's not good.
Wow.
Because if you pull back without adding the power, you're going to stall the airplane.
Oh my
God. If you
God.
add the power without pulling up, you're just going to go quicker into the ground, you know?
Oh my God.
So but it's nice because like the plane I'm on now is if you just push the thrust forward, it sequences everything in the computers to know that you're doing that.
Okay.
On the other plane, I flew, you had to hit a button that was kind of in a weird spot. So you had to make sure you hit that button too.
And I'm sure all the crosswinds too are another challenge you got to deal with. And like,
yeah.
I'm sure some airports by like water are going to be totally different than Omaha or something. You know?
For sure. Yeah, the crosswinds are always a challenge. And actually, it's kind of like a trivia thing that when they build the airport, they look at the historical winds, like for the past 10 years, of what the most consistent wind direction is. And they're supposed to put the runways in that direction.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why LAX, there's always a breeze off the water, and the runways are going right towards the water.
Wow.
Versus going like parallel to the coast.
Right.
Because otherwise you always have wind crosswind.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Wow. Why have I not really looked into that?
Yeah, it's just random, you know.
Yeah.
But like even if you go to like Cleveland, like they're that reason because that's the way the winds are a lot of times there, you know.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, there's a true art to landing. There's even so many times that I've had an awful like head pain when like I'm trying to I'm trying to land. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not the one doing it.
You probably would have a head pain though if you were.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. I would feel so bad for everybody.
No.
Oh my God. But like, I believe it was the pilot that was, just decelerating too fast maybe, or like getting out of the clouds too soon or something to where the pressure in my head, it made it seem like it was going to fucking explode. And it just goes down into my neck and like in my sinuses. And I'm like, I'm wondering if it is like just decelerating too fast or landing too fast. Have you ever experienced that? Where your head hurts?
Mainly if like I'm still getting over a cold, like where I thought I was good and I wasn't yet, you know?
Got it.
That's like, if my sinuses are working fine, it's like I don't really even think to pop my ears anymore. Like I just, it's like subconscious. It's weird.
Yeah. Everyone's like, chew gum, do this. But like, even when I do that, sometimes it'll still just be killing me.
Yeah. Interesting.
I know.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah.
Because pretty much like we have an automated pressurization system that when we start to descend, it'll reduce the pressure in the cabin automatically to correspond to like how quickly we're descending.
Right.
But if you're descending very quickly, sometimes it's going to do that quicker, right? So if you descend faster, it's going to change the rate of that descent quicker, which is going to be more aggressive for you.
That's true.
So
yeah,
sometimes that's out of our control. If ATC leaves us too high and they need us down, we have to descend very quickly.
Yeah,
which is not what we'd like to do, but sometimes you have to do it for that reason.
Shit. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what about weather? I mean, we could talk for fucking ever about weather.
I know.
And how impactful it is.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The de-icing that you got to do you call for that, or who calls for de-icing a plane? Like, do the other people like with the little the what are they called? The ones with the fucking little joysticks, and they're like they're like orange and they got the damn vests on and shit.
Do the joysticks? I don't even know. No, it's all good.
The ones on the damn runway, are they the ones that are like, yeah, you guys probably should de-ice this motherfucker? Or, is that just necessary protocol if it's below a certain amount of degrees? Or like, how does that work?
Yes, actually that is all on, those are ramp agents. It's like basically their name. They like bring the plane in, like help it park and stuff.
The joystick people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Ramp agents. Nice. Yeah. Okay.
And then that decision actually comes completely on the pilots.
Really?
Like 100% on us. So
wow.
That's why like we're there to back each other up, and it's always in our mind, when the weather conditions dictate that. A lot of times, or I always like if the weather's cold, I'll go back and check the wings go to the exit row and look on the wings with the flashlight from the top. And make sure there's no snow or frost on the wings. Okay. And if it doesn't have anything on the wing, then you're good. If it starts snowing, when you're taxiing out, then you have to get de-iced. Okay. Because the snow would be sticking to even if it's just like flurries, you still have to get de-iced.
So then what happens if you don't do that and it starts snowing? If it just sticks to the plane, does it make a huge difference in the flight?
Realistically, if it's just like starts to flurry lightly, it'll be fine. That's more of a legal to keep it legal. Got it. But if it's heavy snow and if it's been sticking, it actually affects the airflow over the wing. So the air needs to be nice and smooth for it to be like a smooth flow. Mm-hmm. If it gets disrupted, then it affects the lift the plane can produce. And if you have a lot of snow on the wings, the plane will try to keep taking off, but it won't have enough lift to get off the ground. You basically just run off the end of the runway and crash. It's a big deal. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus, sorry. And that's just the first part. That's just when you're actually still on the runway. Like we're not even talking about like turbulence or anything yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming all sorts of different thunderstorm versus snow versus all that different shit is different for you when you're up in the air. And I'm sure you see the coolest storms below you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The views are just incredible.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
God damn. But what happens when you encounter turbulence? I mean, what are the protocols when it comes to that? Are there certain ones for that?
There are. Yeah. So like in my plane, one of the protocols is to turn on our ignition. So there's an A and a B ignition for each engine. And normally only one of those is operating at a time. And when you switch the ignition on, it'll have A and B both operating at the same time. So it's like a redundancy that there's two igniters running, which helps prevent the engine from flaming out. And a flame out essentially means like the air gets disrupted and it fails. So the engine needs, just like the wing does, the engine needs like a certain amount of airflow to keep coming into it.
Got it.
And if you have really bad turbulence, you can get enough of a bump where it affects the way the air is actually entering the front.
Totally.
So we have that ignition on to help that redundancy. Oh. And then also we slow down is a big one.
Okay.
To help reduce it makes the turbulence feel better for the passengers, and it also reduces the wear and tear on the wings. Oh. Kind of like if you're in a lake, like if you're going 50 miles an hour in a boat and all of a sudden you hit rough waves, it's gonna be like bam, bam, like really rough, right? You slow down, right? Normally you would, because you don't want to keep going with the waves super fast. The same thing, just the air is just a different type of fluid than the water is, so it's rough, you know.
When do most accidents or failures happen? Do you think it is in takeoff? Do you think it is in the middle? Is it landing? Is it all over the place? Yeah,
so with this, I've looked at it a couple times. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. I'm pretty sure, I know the cruise phase of flight is the safest. I think the landing is the most dangerous, and then it's takeoff, and then it's cruise, as far as like where the most accidents occur.
Yeah.
Because the takeoff is easier than the landing. Because you pretty much just got to keep it centered, add the power, and then you pull back. Like, It's not too hard. The landing is definitely more complex, and there's more things that could go wrong on the landing.
Okay.
The cruise is like, things have happened, you know, very rarely, but you're so far away from the ground.
Right.
It's like the nice thing is like the more altitude you have, actually the safer you are. Which most people get nervous when they're flying up high, right?
Right.
But in our minds, altitude for us is time. So the more altitude you have, the more time you have to troubleshoot an issue before you're ending up on the ground.
That's a damn good point.
Yeah. So if you're at 100 feet and you have an issue, you have like a half a second to fix it.
That's so true, dude.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like Sully, right? So they had the issue at like 1,000 feet where they lost both engines and they had to land in a river. You know?
Oh, the one on the Hudson?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they didn't have a lot of time, so they didn't have a lot of options. But like, if we lost both engines in cruise, we could hopefully find an airport and glide into the airport, you know?
Mm-hmm, yeah, so, that's a good point. I mean, how confident are you in that? I mean, you've already mentioned that aircrafts are safe and you have so many protocols. I mean, but then again, you get these fucking airplanes like the 737 MAX.
Oh, yeah.
That has to be taken out of service. What do you think went wrong there?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of issues with that. Yeah, there's like a big breakdown in that whole issue, both on Boeing's side and then also to have the FAA handled it as well.
Wow.
But it was just a redundancy issue in that plane with the warning systems they had. And the issue is that 737 has been used for so long, and they put different engines on that plane, which affected the pitch that it goes up and down. And they try to compensate that with certain systems. But those systems didn't have enough redundancy where that crew was getting a false warning. And it was hard for them to override it, essentially.
Oh, that's awful.
And it's hard to explain, but...
Right. Okay.
And also, the factor of it was the training as well.
That totally makes sense, though.
It's one of those things that they weren't really training on it as much as they should have, because they didn't realize that this would happen so easily.
Yeah,
you know?
Okay.
And when I flew the 737, I was still flying it after that happened. We got a lot of training on that. Even though I wasn't flying the MAX, we got training in something similar.
Okay.
So it's a lot to handle in that situation on that plane. Like,
yeah,
even experienced pilots would have a hard time with what they were experiencing in those situations.
Wow.
So yeah.
And I mean, I think they're back in business now. I think I read that somewhere.
Yeah, they're back. Oh yeah, they're back.
So they fixed something. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually flew on one a couple months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think is the most common mistake that pilots can make?
Huh. That's a good question. I don't.
Probably just something with buttons, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what it would be. I would say there's so many different possible mistakes. I would say the biggest one is rushing. Rushing would probably be the biggest one. Yeah. Allowing that, like, remember I said how about the pressure you get to go on time? I think the biggest mistake would be allowing that pressure to start to influence your decisions or how quickly you make your decisions.
Right.
Because that opens up the door of all these different other things that could go wrong.
Right.
If you start to rush. Because it's so hard to pinpoint because there's like 50 different things that we could do wrong at any given time. Like for a given flight that could lead to a problem.
That's true.
But it's like if you're in the right mindset and you're following procedures, all those should be covered.
Right.
You know? We have like this thing called like the Swiss cheese model we use. So like if you have Swiss cheese, yeah. It's not like, I guess it applies to things like other than just flying, but like if you have Swiss cheese, right, and you line it up, essentially you want to make sure that if you have enough holes in something and they can line up where it goes right through all the block of cheese, right? So like we have different safeguards of like the checklist is the thing that covers up one of those holes, or training covers up one of them, or, procedures or different things that reduce the errors, essentially.
Yeah.
I could have explained that better, but...
Dude, your analogies are fucking top notch. Oh. They're great. It's making sense for, someone like me that is not used to being in a cockpit every day, God, luckily those things are very, very rare, which is something we do want to reiterate.
Yeah.
And you do keep everything as safe as possible. I mean, there is a common misconception, though, that I do want to ask you about. How important actually is it that you turn your phone off during takeoff and landing?
Yeah. No, that's a good one. Yeah.
I want to know from you what you think.
Yeah, I would say it's not that important. I've personally never had any interference of it. Okay. There's certain planes where we're doing like a really important landing where we're, there's no visibility and the plane's actually landing itself, where it could potentially interfere. Oh. But even that, I've never witnessed it once, actually happening. And I'm sure good. On most of these planes, like a lot of people are not doing it right away. They're probably staying at Texas as late as they can, when they're still in the air.
Right.
But I mean, I've never had any interference with it.
That's good.
I think there's so many, maybe when cell phones first came out, but now there's so many cell phone signals and stuff going around everywhere at once,
Right. I mean, even when you think back to like 9/11, which just, the 20th anniversary just passed. So crazy to think about that. They had all these, I don't think there were cell phones, but they were onboard phones that they were able to call loved ones. We can't really do
You're
that.
You're right.
You know?
They totally got rid of those plane phones. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just weird to think like, wow, things have really changed. But also like, what is your take on the difference now and then on planes in terms of safety? Or do you think it's more so in the airports and then things on planes have not really changed too much and they're just still, as long as everyone is safe that comes onto the plane, you'll be safe? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me think about that. So you're saying more like a security thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Because like you said, there were metal gates on some of them that they should be putting on every fucking plane. That could be something that could keep us more safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I know the doors we have now are way better than the doors they had on those 9/11 planes on 9/11.
Oh, really?
Like they didn't really think about it at all. That wasn't really much of an issue. That's never happened before, so they weren't worried about it.
Locking and stuff. Or
they could lock, but they were flimsy. I think they were not that strong.
Shit. Okay.
The ones we have now are like this, like thick metal. Like you cannot open those really.
Okay, good.
So those have gotten a lot safer. I know it's a pain to do all the screening, but that definitely does help.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I will gladly wait in line way longer if I know I'm going to get there safe.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's way better. I think I'm sure there's a lot more screening involved and stuff for flights.
Yeah. But you're a lucky one and you just get to be like, pilot, right through.
yeah, exactly. Oh, that's a blessing
so
to have that for sure. That's so nice. Yeah.
You have to take your shoes off.
I know. I just got these new shoes though recently that are supposed to be like just new dress shoes, and they have some type of metal in them that always sets it off. If I do have to go through a scanner, it always sets it off now for some reason. It's weird.
Oh my god, that's another thing though. What kind of fucking shoes do you wear? Do you take your shoes off? I would.
Oh, yeah.
You're sitting there for hours. What kind of shoes do you wear?
Just like regular dress shoes.
Really?
Yeah, there's like ones you would buy at the store pretty much.
But dress shoes are like nice and not that comfy.
Yeah,
I know. Still have to wear those? Oh.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, well.
It'd be sweet if I could just wear like tennis shoes. That'd be comfortable. But it just wouldn't, because we had to, supposed to, like in a uniform. So
yeah. Well, how many pedals do you use with your feet?
Just one for each foot. Just just two.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I could I never really take my shoes off. I guess I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Air those stinky motherfuckers.
Yeah. Exactly. I know, right?
Oh my god.
Could drive the other pilot crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I mean, there are a lot of like other stigmas like surrounding pilots, like when it comes to like owning pets and stuff. Like, can you even have a dog when you're a pilot?
Yeah, I guess if you're married, you can. If you have somebody that live with you, you could.
That's true.
It's just imagine the issue of like when you're going away. It's like as long as there's somebody that can watch the dog when you're gone.
True.
You can totally have a dog though, for sure. But it's just it's just hard if you live by yourself. It's pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that. I don't think that's very fair to the dog.
Right.
Yeah, to be like gone that much.
Right.
Yeah.
And is it true that pilots do have like hella different wives all the time? Is that another little
different lives or
wives or lives too? Really, truly.
Yeah. No, I haven't really. I mean, I haven't
encountered any.
No, I haven't seen that really, but yeah, I'm sure it happens. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But I mean, like. Maybe not as much as it's portrayed,
Right.
Yeah.
And the other big old stigma is the drunks. Is it true you encounter a lot of drunk pilots?
Not at all. Thankfully, I've never
God.
once had that experience. So
thank God.
Yeah, I guess I've run into pilots that like to like drink on the layovers. People do that, but I don't really like. I'm like, I'm not really that interested in it. But
right.
People do that, but then like I've never run into anybody where it was like affecting the flight at all. 'Cause we have like a 12-hour rule where it's 12 hours from your last drink until you're flying.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, well, actually, the FAA rule is only 8 hours, but then my company's rule is 12 hours. So
that's great.
Yeah. So that's really good.
And do you have like random tests of like blood alcohol content or like drugs or anything?
Yeah, for both of those.
Really?
So they could both happen at any time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's really good. So that's another safety guard, because it's like you never know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, not at all. Good.
So yeah.
But I mean, can you guys like take any like antidepressants if you have to? Like if you have anxiety or depression or anything? Like are pilots even allowed to do that or go to therapy or anything?
Yeah, that's a big problem with the whole industry. It's a really big issue because there's a concern with our medicals as far as if we have depression, then are you safe to fly people?
Right.
So it's like there's this huge stigma of pilots that they're too afraid to get therapy or help because they're worried that they may lose their medical, which is actually makes it worse.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
It's crazy.
It's so ass backwards.
Yeah, it's like I hope one day that'll get changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like obviously if people are coming up with the problem, then that's when they really have issues or bad things happen if they never got any help for it.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
Yeah.
You have to nip that shit in the bud like before it becomes a huge issue.
Yeah.
And therapy helps, some medications do help. So
for sure.
But
I'm hoping that I think that is one of those things kind of like female pilots. It's just one of those things that's just going to take time.
Yeah.
Kind of like a stigma or like a stereotype. Like it's just going to take time and awareness.
Right.
I think social media and younger generation coming up is going to help that.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Okay.
So I think there's a hope for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And what about the very last one I can think of for stigmas, the Mile High Club?
Oh, yeah.
Is it actually a thing, like with pilots or just passengers?
I think way more with passengers. Way more. Yeah, I think it's like the passengers are obsessed with that. We're just kind of like,
yeah.
You're
like, all right, if they want to get it on, I guess. Like,
yeah.
It's very tiny in there.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very
luck.
appealing to me. I'm like, that bathroom's disgusting. Like, I'm good.
Oh my God, do you ever have to like be the one? No, you're never gonna be the one. Do you ever have to see them like get the sewage out of the fucking?
Oh no, I'm not the one doing it, but I used to work on the ramp. Like that's my first job in airlines. Like not actually, I never really did that job that exactly, but my coworkers did. I don't know how I got so lucky not to have to do that, but
oh my God.
But like it's like it's pretty disgusting.
Oh,
yeah.
I can only
imagine. When I'm doing the walk around, like in my uniform, I'm always careful if they're doing that because like I don't want to get like
you don't want to smell it
or
either.
if it like sprays, any of that stuff like sprays out or whatever. It's like oh
ew.
So there's like this blue juice they use like a chemical that I think it neutralizes it or the smell or something.
Oh, interesting.
Pretty disgusting too. So yeah.
The glorious life of a pilot.
Yeah, but I've totally been like walking around and seeing them have that big cart where they're like sucking all that stuff out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it has to happen, but
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, oh man,
we're just carrying poop everywhere across the
pretty
country.
much.
Like, oh my
freaking
God.
flyers.
Yeah.
We need to charge them.
Oh my God.
Get some revenue off of that.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And you got to account for that with the weight and the gas and all that too.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
God, that's funny as hell, man.
Yeah, that's wild. There's so many different moving parts that go into it. It's just
really,
it's like this magical little system that everything, like the gate agents, the flight attendants, the pilots, the mechanics, it all just, if one piece goes wrong, then it's like your flight's delayed.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. So many moving parts that are so essential to the whole operation.
Yeah.
And you're like the one that gets so glorified because you're the one in charge pretty much.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's wild.
It's so insane.
Yeah,
I love that I get to talk to you about this shit, babe.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love talking about it too. It's fun, you know.
What is next for you? What do you think you're just going to stick with the same company for a while?
Yeah, so definitely going to stay at the same company for pretty much the rest of my career.
Oh, yay.
Like, yeah, because this is one of those things, like, once you get to your, like, an airline, like, at this level, you don't want to change.
Yeah,
because
babe. You've worked so hard to get here.
Yeah, and your seniority is just everything. So, like, if I were to go to another airline, it's like I just got hired again. Nothing transfers over, which is unlike any other, like, job, right?
Right.
It's like normally, like, if you've been a lawyer for 10 years, like, you go to this other law firm, like, oh wow, you've been a lawyer for 10 years, we'll pay you this or whatever, you know.
Right.
But for the airlines, it's like you're just starting over. So yeah, staying with this company basically until I retire.
Yeah.
So they just keep, on this plane. I like this plane I'm on now a lot, so stay on this plane and maybe do international eventually. So it's like two different paths I could take. Would go either international co-pilot or captain on the smaller planes.
Okay.
Or international first officer or captain on the small planes. So
got it.
There's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
Depends on which one I want to do. And the nice thing is, like, this airline, you can do the international stuff for a while. If you get tired of it, you can go back to the domestic stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited to see where it goes from here. I literally could talk to you for 5 years about this shit. There's so many things I could ask you, but obviously we only have so much time. But I do want to thank you so much for talking to me about
absolutely.
all this.
No, for sure. It's been awesome.
Thank you, babe. The mysteriously anonymous major airline pilot you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you for coming on to Unwomanly, babe. Good luck to you, of course. And be sure to keep up with me and the Unwomanly podcast by following at Unwomanly Podcast on Instagram and at Jen Danczak to keep up with me. I'm Jen, and I'll see you next time here on Unwomanly.